Oh, I don't really look presentable right now. Oh well, there's only like 5 of you watching this anyway. How are you all doing? Hopefully you're all doing great. We're doing just fine, I guess. I don't know. This is a bit of a different video. I don't have anything recorded to edit, so we went back to my old school intro. Now for this video, I wanted to talk about our experience of baby being sick. When I first started doing these videos, there was a couple things I wanted to do with them. First, I just wanted to record baby more so that we'd have footage of him growing up and pictures as well. And I thought, I might as well throw it into a vlog. I ended up liking the whole vlogging process and learning how to edit and shoot video, so I just kept going with it. The problem was it was hard to find time to edit these videos because I do have a full-time job as well. And another reason to do these vlogs was just to share my experience as a new parent, and hopefully maybe people can learn from our mistakes and even things that we did well. Just in the beginning, when baby was born, we were definitely having a hard time just dealing with everything. It was just a good thing that we had a lot of family support. The thing with babies is there's no manual or anything like that to learn from. I mean, you can read those parenting books, which I kind of didn't. Probably should have. Anyway, you can only learn so much from reading, and you can learn a lot more from experiences. And if people can learn from ours, that's what I was going for. I mean, not everybody is going to have the same experiences that we're having, and not all the things that work for us are going to work for anybody else. Because with kids, it seems to be it depends kind of thing. So on to our baby being sick. It all started when we drove down to Oregon, hoping to do a little bit of camping and spend some time in Salem and Portland. So we drove down to Cannon Beach, which was about 6 hours or something like that. Yeah. Definitely have things to keep your baby occupied or distracted. So we were camping down there. I was gonna say everything was great, but it was a little bit difficult. If you've seen my other video, yeah, it was difficult. But after that, when we were heading to Salem and then to Portland, that's when we started noticing something. The night we stayed in Portland, he was burning up. We didn't have a thermometer with us, but he was definitely hot. Luckily, we had some infant Tylenol with us. We gave that to him, and I think that helped him settle for the night, but he was still a little bit fussy. So the next day on our drive back home, he didn't have that high of a temperature, but he was still warm. I think even the day before and that day, he was really picky with his food. It wasn't even picky, he wasn't eating. He was barely drinking, and that's when we were getting worried. Well, of course I was worried when he had a higher temperature, but all you can do with that is just to keep the fever down, and that's it. With the food and his milk, that's when we started really getting worried. As he was growing, he wasn't the biggest baby to begin with. I mean, I think he was exactly average all the way up through the growth chart, but we're just used to seeing other babies of friends that were way bigger than he was. So the fact that he wasn't eating or drinking anything, and you can definitely tell that he was losing a bit of weight already, yeah, we were definitely concerned. But we were just having a conversation about this with family, and they had a good point. Anybody that's sick, their appetite is gonna decrease, but just in our case, I don't know. Just because we hadn't been in that situation before, it was really easy to start freaking out. So up to this point, with his food, mommy did her best to make everything. I don't think we bought any other food except for maybe cereal or baby cereal. All this other food would be made at home. But on our drive up, because we were so desperate, we wanted him to eat something. He was really picky. I think we bought him some mac and cheese, and he didn't want that at all. So we got these little fruit gel, fruit, whatever. You'll see what it is. Like these gel packets, and I mean, initially he took a couple bites, and yeah, that was great, but I think we celebrated too soon. After that, he didn't want any of it, he didn't want any part of it. It was the same, he just didn't want to eat anything. So when we got home, we were just trying to manage the temperature. I mean, he didn't have any other symptoms or anything like that, so that's all we were focused on. And after a while, we just settled on the fact that he's gonna eat eventually. And sure enough, he started getting over the fever and started to get his appetite back, just like we'd hoped. But then, I think a couple days after that, we started seeing some rashes on him. When he was a smaller baby, he had these little, I guess rash type things, but what his doctor was saying it's probably because of dry skin. And I mean, we got a bunch of eczema products, and yeah, that helped. So I was just thinking it was something like that. But then it started spreading. So it started in the trunk area, I think, just in the middle here, and then in the back of his neck as well. He didn't look like he was too bothered by it. It didn't look itchy or anything like that. But then it started spreading down his arms and his legs, and even a little bit, I'm not sure if it was on the face, but around the head, the crown area, I guess. And then the last straw was when it was moving towards his groin area. My wife took him to the walk-in clinic. Oh, but previously before this, we weren't too freaked out because, I mean, obviously we got some good research in Google. But yeah, from what we Googled, the symptoms in the timeline look like roseola, which is just, a rash caused by a virus. I'm not sure if it's a specific virus or anything like that. And when I was talking to my cousin, who has like 4 kids, she was saying that, after they get a really high temperature, sometimes they get a rash like that. So we weren't too worried. But anyway, back to it spreading down to his groin. That's when my wife took him to the walk-in clinic. Also, another reason was because the in-laws were freaking out themselves and they really wanted him to see a doctor. Doctor pretty much just validated what we were thinking. It was roseola. I'm not actually sure what the doctor said, but I think it would just pass on its own as long as there are no other symptoms. And luckily, it did. It started going away, I think, the next day. So we were happy with that for sure. So after that, it was all great. We were happy. I mean, we were happy we were able to manage it. But then I think a week after, so he was good for a week, and then the same thing started happening again. He was starting to feel really warm and then really hot. So he definitely had a fever. I was working at this time. It was at nighttime. My wife was filling me in. She was texting me. This one was a bit harder because I wasn't there to see the baby, but we also had access to a thermometer this time. So when my wife took his temperature, it was in the 40s. It was 40 something, 40 point something, I think. So having numbers to go with his fever definitely made things worse for us. So, I mean, my mind started racing. I'm sure her mind was racing. And we're both thinking maybe to bring him to emergency. And that was definitely an option. But after talking to some coworkers and doing some research online, it's weird how common I saw 40-degree temperature was for babies. I mean, for adults, I would be freaking out a little bit. I guess they have really bad fevers and that's how they deal with it. And I came to the conclusion that we just have to control his fever, that's all. And at that time, there was no other symptoms. But then the next day, he was really warm, but continuously had diarrhea and was incredibly fussy. That's when I really started getting worried. This was on another level from what we experienced in Portland and just after that. But it turned out to be the same game plan for us. We just wanted to manage his fever, but then this time, because of the diarrhea, and obviously again, he wasn't eating, I kept thinking about his hydration and his electrolytes. Because he would be going like maybe 6-7 times? 6 times a day, just little bits of diarrhea. For anybody, they would be at risk for dehydration at that point. So at one point, my wife went out to buy some of the electrolyte drinks for babies, and that's what we focused on giving him. I mean, if he didn't want to eat, what can you do? He didn't want to drink too much, what can you do? We really wanted to get that electrolyte drink in him, just to keep him hydrated. So this kept going and going, like it was a few days past. Yeah, it definitely lasted much longer than the last time when he had roseola. But there was light at the end of the tunnel. We noticed his fever started decreasing finally, I think on the 3rd or 4th day, but his appetite still wasn't there. It was still difficult to get him to eat or drink anything. But just to be safe, we went to the doctors, but at this point I think he was feeling a little bit better. Anyway, the doctor still ordered a specimen sample, and you'll never guess what came out of it. According to the test, he had salmonella. Oh, that's crazy. So at that point, it was just like, wow, that all made sense. I mean, his fussiness was probably due to some abdominal cramping. Because he had diarrhea, we had to worry about like diaper rash, and yeah, it was just really difficult. I just don't know how that happened though. But we made it through, and we're just so happy he's back to normal again. As a parent, it was hard to see him go through something like that. You feel powerless to do anything. I mean, here you're taking care of this baby, you're pretty much controlling everything, what he eats, when he sleeps, and then when something like this happens, you have no control. All you end up doing is trying to manage the symptoms. And I think that's one of the important things that we've learned from this is just to remember to stay calm. Just think about what he needs. We could have easily went to emergency if we really wanted to. I mean, for other parents, I wouldn't say don't go to emergency. But I work in the hospital, and I know he's probably gonna sit there for how many hours waiting for a doctor to see him or for treatment or something like that. For him and for us, it would have been a better environment just to keep him at home, keep him comfortable, and try to manage his symptoms there. Luckily, he didn't have any other symptoms. I mean, we did have a little bit of a scare one time. He was eating at one point, even though he had a really poor appetite, but it was because he loves watermelon. And then he had a poop, and there were all these like, I don't know. The first thing that jumped into my mind was, it looks like he pooped out guts. And I don't think I even told my wife this. And I was like, what is going on here? But no, if you've ever seen blood in poop, it wasn't guts. But if you've ever seen blood in poop or anything like that, it didn't look like that. And then I was thinking, what did he eat that day? Watermelon. It makes sense. I guess it wasn't properly digested. It still looked like chunks of watermelon. I mean, not the biggest chunks, but still chunks. And it just came out like that. That was kind of a big freak out moment. But when you just calm down and think about, everything that's going on, yeah, it's definitely easier to manage, and you know what you have to do. Yeah, use your resources if you can. Use the emergency if you need to. For us, we didn't feel like there was enough things going on for him to be waiting there for X amount of hours. And it was just great that we were able to pull out of it. And he's doing wonderful now. So I think that's all I had to say about it. That was our experience. Those were some feelings we had, or at least I had around it. Hopefully this helps other parents. And know that you're all doing a great job. It's easy to freak out, but when you talk to other parents who have like multiple children, yeah, they barely freak out over anything nowadays. And rightfully so, because us as parents, we can manage a lot of these things ourselves. But the thing is, we just need to know what our limit is and when we have to seek outside help. And that can be different for anybody. So I hope that was helpful, and I hope you liked this type of video. So we'll see you in the next video, and you guys take care. This is reality for us. I'm sure other parents do a wonderful job maintaining everything and keeping everything clean. I think all this right here, just mirrors our life right now. I just thought it would have been an interesting background. To those doing a better job than we are, maintaining everything, you guys are awesome.